My name is Jara, and I make videos about faith, lifestyle, and home. So make sure you hit the subscribe button if you're new. First of all, you guys will all be relieved and happy to know I did get my brakes fixed. So now when I brake, as I am right now, there's no squeak. And you guys were right. I was like, this type of Jeep's just squeaky, whatever. No, I did have to have my brakes replaced. So thank you for your concern, because you were right. It's bright and foggy out here this morning. So, you know, in my last couple videos, I was like, our next video will be our first house tour and empty house tour, blah, blah, blah. This is not our empty house tour. Bit of a change of plans. We did not end up buying the house. Pretty much, we had been in a process all summer to buy our first home. We've been looking for a house for a while, and pretty much for the price point we were looking for, we were having a hard time, because either they were a bigger size and not remodeled and, you know, kind of old, dirty feel, or they were remodeled but they were small. And we were looking for at least, originally we were looking for at least a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And we wanted at least, you know, we first said 1,400 square feet. And, you know, to some people that might sound large, to some people that might sound small. But when we were at our apartment was like right under 1,000 square feet, and we had a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. And so once we started looking, because of the price point, we were realizing, okay, to find something remodeled and new, it's going to be very hard to find at that square footage. So there were some houses we fell in love with that didn't work out, and then in May we found this little house that was like 3 minutes from our apartment. So we just drove over there to look at it on the outside first, and it was cute. It had a cute little porch, and from the photos, you know, there was like a nice little dining room. So we scheduled to see it that day, and we put an offer in on it that day. So pretty much we learned pretty quickly that with the house market right now, if you want a house, you gotta like put on an offer as soon as possible, because they are going like that. Made an offer on the house, had to go back and forth with the seller a little bit due to like closing costs and things like that, and got an accepted offer. Now, we had a bit more of a drawn out timeline with this house, because there was like certain guidelines about the time frame for our loan. It was like the seller had to have owned the home for a certain amount of time. So technically, after we signed our contract, we had to wait 60 days to re-sign a new contract. Then the 30-day process would start. So typically when you put an offer in on the house, you just have a 30-day time period to closing. But for us, because of the special circumstance, it was going to be 60 days and then an additional 30 days once that was up. So 3 months pretty much total. And, you know, in the beginning, there was kind of a couple of red flags. Like when we were making our offer, the seller didn't seem very negotiable, I guess is the word to say. But then all summer, we were pretty much just waiting, you know, to actually start the process. So the time comes to actually start the new contract, so within the 30 days. And we'd been packing all this time. We had plans for our house. I had pretty much drawn up interior design ideas for every room. We had gotten some furniture already. and we were good to go. We already put a 30-day notice in our apartment, so it was go time. And we got the appraisal done, and it appraised, and we got the inspection done, and a pest inspection, which was a big relief for us because it is an older house, and we were like, I was just worried about what it might be. And because of how the seller was, I was like, he might not be keen on fixing things. So that kind of was what happened with the inspections. There was a lot of small stuff we could have asked for, but we pretty much only asked for 4 things. And a couple of those things being like kind of bigger things, like making sure the AC was in working order in the hot water tank. So pretty much out of the 4 things, the seller only wanted to fix 2. And with that said, after that, he didn't want to sign the agreement that stated that it was completed. So technically our deal busted right there. And also, it just felt like this entire process, we were kind of being fear-mongered by the professionals that were supposed to help us. Like every time we were like, oh, well, this is a concern about the house, or this is a concern, they were like, well, don't ask him because you know how he is, and then the deal could bust. And it literally just felt like we were fear-mongered the whole time. And then it felt like there was also issues with the lending side of it, where the professional was not being truthful with us. And it just felt like time and time again, there was always an issue. Like one thing after another, there was an issue. And so I had just felt honestly on edge the whole time. Like it kind of just felt like we were trying to force it. But there were other things that felt like, you know, God had worked it out perfectly and that it was meant to be for us. Pretty much had a bad feeling, and literally the week of closing, I told Richard, we got to talk, and I was like, you know, I'm feeling this way. He's like, I feel the same. And at this point, because of all of this stress going on, we didn't even feel excited anymore. And we were compromising a lot on this house. It was not by any means like a dream house or a house we could see ourselves being in for a really long time, because it was small. It was a 3-bedroom, 1 bath. And it was like, around 900 square feet. Like it was small, smaller than our apartment even, but we were willing to make sacrifices. I mean, it had a tiny closet, it had 1 small bathroom that pretty much needed to be completely remodeled. So it felt like, you know, we're working a lot, really hard, to just get a house that we are making a lot of sacrifices for. And I was like, it shouldn't be this hard because we're settling, you know? And so we had a talk, and we came to the agreement. We prayed, and we were like, Lord, if you do not want us to get this house, we will know that if there's any more red flags, because it is closing week. Like, it's go time. We're supposed to be moving. And sure enough, the next morning, get a phone call. More things going wrong. And Richard called me, and I said, you know what? I don't want to do it. I'm done with this. And I feel like we were treated unfairly and kind of taken advantage of because we are first-time home buyers, and pretty much asked to settle on thing after thing after thing, when I feel like in this process, you really should be catering to the buyer. And we were really reasonable and really patient and understanding during this, but it was the whole time, like I said, be careful, you don't want to do this, you don't want to do that, over things like, we need to have the AC, we need to have the HVAC service to make sure it's in working order. Like, we should not be expected to buy a house without the AC in working order. You know, like, things that should be the most typical standard thing. Even things like, hey, in the past you've told us that it's typical for the seller to mow the lawn before you move in. Well, you don't want to ask him that because that might bust the deal. Mowing the lawn, it was just so frustrating. And I'm like, I just felt like we were not treated the way we should have been. And while I was really disappointed that we weren't able to get our house, there was also this panic of what are we going to do now, because our lease is up, and I asked if we could renew the lease of the apartment, and they said it had already been leased to somebody else. So fun fact, when you put in your 30-day notice, typically it should say in your lease, but that apartment goes on up on the market for sale. This lighting is wild right now. And so our apartment had already been leased. Thankfully, we were able to find a temporary place to stay. And truthfully, have felt very peaceful about our decision. It had just been a very stressful time. And then, to make it worse, the apartment we had been in when we moved out, we had an awful experience with management. Pretty much illegal practices where they were not providing us the information that they said they would before they billed us. Like, they didn't give us an itemized list or give us receipts of when the carpet was last replaced and things like that. So we had an awful experience with them. Plus having to move somewhere temporarily, and like our entire lives are in boxes in a storage unit, and has just been a unexpected turn of events, honestly, which is scary. Truthfully, I have always had a hard time with control, but with that said, I have felt more peaceful than I have in a long time, and I do have faith that God is going to work everything out for the good, and just trying to pursue Him more has really been enlightening during this season. Some other news that I am honestly very excited about is that I'm going to be working with my church to open a women's program for women who struggle with pornography addiction and sexual brokenness. And this is something that's been on my heart for over 3 years now. Once I, started my own recovery in January of 2020, the following year when I was at church, they had a man come who has a ministry specifically for men who struggle with pornography addiction. And, the main resources they mentioned for women were if your husband struggles with pornography addiction. There wasn't anything mentioned about if you do, we're here for you, or like these are the resources. And so I felt like when I first saw him come in 2021, that God spoke to my heart and was like, you should ask if they have a program for women. And I kind of pushed it aside. I was still pretty new to my faith, and didn't feel qualified at all to ask a question like that. Pushed it to the side, and then every year after that, when he's come and visited, I felt God speak to my heart. So last year I actually messaged him and I asked him if he had anything available for women, and he said that it's something that's much needed, that they need more women voices to start a program like that, pretty much. And yeah, we talked a little bit back and forth, and then I talked to some of the leadership at my church, and I pretty much talked to one of our lead teaching pastors and told her kind of what had been on my heart for a while now, and she said that it was much needed, that they knew it was a need in the church because women have been coming to them asking for resources, but they never had anybody there to kind of take on the responsibilities of how to go about this program. So we've had a few meetings here and there, and we will be opening a women's program in November, if it's God's will. So I'm really excited about it. It's also just brought up a lot of insecurities on my part, I think. I definitely have imposter syndrome where I feel like the enemy is speaking to me like, you're not qualified for this, you're not educated enough, you're not holy enough to do all of this. And that's honestly just something I've had to really bring to the Lord. Because I know this is a passion of mine, and I know I'm not the most educated person, and I know I'm not the most spiritual person there is, but I'm working on myself, and I think this type of group is so needed to have that community and the resources available. So I'm just doing my best to pray and have God guide me and to be educated as best as I can beforehand. So if you could, please pray for me that God will use this group the way it's intended, and to equip me well enough to lead the best way I can. So that's really exciting. And lastly, I have been on the job hunt for a very long time now. Pretty much since March of this year, and I'm supposed to be going in today to get an offer letter. So Lord willing, that all works out great. I'm really in a place now where I've tried my best to surrender control in this season, and I feel like that's what God has really been teaching me. So when things don't work out, I'm trying my best to just trust in Him that He has something better for me. So yeah, more on that. I can share a little bit more about it, once all of that is finalized. But yeah, I hope you're all doing well. I just wanted to make a quick, short video about kind of the life updates that we have been going through. A bit of a plot twist. I'm very grateful for God's faithfulness and His grace and mercy during all of this, and His peace. And honestly, just let this be a lesson to you guys. If you feel like your discernment's telling you from the beginning not to do something, just listen to it. Truthfully, if you pray and that feeling is still there, and it's not just you worrying, it's like actual discernment from God that something's wrong, listen to it. And don't force situations, because it's never worth it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great week. I hope you're all doing well and excited for fall weather, because I definitely am. But make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're new, hit that like button, and I will see you guys later.